Hello everybody and welcome back to the series. This is part 14-3. We still haven't quite finished part 14. The last part we were looking into caching the icon of the apps, and I think what we're going to do, or what is best, would be to have it cache the icons on the home screen and let the drawer be uncached. But we can have the drawer load in the background so that the home screen can load directly up. As in, the drawer can be loaded in something called an async task in Android, and so that will just run the drawer, loading all the apps into the drawer, and the home screen will already be all set up. So I know we have a bunch going on already, and we really need to get the serialization thing done before we do this caching. So if you would go into the serialization tools class, and we need to make a couple methods. The first one will be a method that will serialize the class, which in this case would be the pack class. Well, not the pack class. We made a app serializable data. It's going to serialize the app serializable data class, which contains a list of packs. So the first method we need to make is the one that actually serializes that class. So we can do public static void, and we can call this serialize data. Sure. Now this is a generic name for this method, so I don't know if we want to use that. I'm thinking that in the app serializable data we can have more than just the apps array. We could also have a shortcuts array. In the future, we'll have to add shortcuts into this thing too. So I'm thinking that we can do that all in this class. So that's why I'm going to call this a pretty general name. So serialized data will be the method name. We can always change that in the future if we need to. And then what will need to be passed in is, first of all, the actual class, the object of the class of app serializable data. We can just name it obj. Now what else do we need? We need some way to identify the app. That could be that might not need to be identified because we have an app serializable data with an array, and it's sort of identified by the number in the array. So I'm not going to pass anything else in for now. If we need something else, if I think it's something, we can add it later on. Now, the next thing we need to do is have a file output stream. This is because we're going to store the object as a binary file that we can later grab and use again. So file output stream, we can call this FOS again. And then we need a try catch statement, and we're going to catch a file not found exception. And if you want, you can print the stack trace, as I've been saying. Okay, so that's the first catch statement. We also need a catch statement for IO exception, and e dot print stack trace. And okay, so it's saying to remove because we have nothing in the try catch statement yet. So first of all, we need to create the FOS. So FOS equals to main activity dot open file output, and this is where we put the name of the file. So I'm going to call this data for now. Once again, this is very generic right at this moment. Okay, and then the mode will be context dot mode private. So this file output stream, it's basically telling it to write to the data folder of the app, which is data slash your package name, and then somewhere in one of those private folders for the app. And then the next thing we need to do is create an object output stream. Object output stream, and we can call it OS equals new object output stream, and the output is the file output stream. And then we need to write the object, write the app serializable data object by doing os.write object, write object, and then obj. Then the next thing, we need to close the OS stream. Alright, and that is actually it for this method. The next method, we need to retrieve the this file. So let's make another public static void. We can call this load serialized data, and we don't really have anything to pass in yet. And I forgot, it's not a void, it's app serializable data. We're gonna actually retrieve that class with this method. And so we're going to grab that file that we wrote in the previous method, and we're going to convert it back into an object file. So the first thing, we need an object input stream. Object input stream, and we can just call it input stream and equal it to null for now. And then we can have a try catch statement. Let's finish this whole try catch statement. We're gonna have to catch a few things. So catch end of file exception e and e.print stack trace, and then we also have to catch a class not found exception, and we can do an e.print stack trace, and then we need to catch a file not found exception, and then we need to, okay, and I'll print stack trace again. File not found exception e.print stack trace, and then we need to catch a IO input output exception. Okay, and let's print that. Okay, forgot to add the E again. Let's print the stack trace again. And then we add a finally statement. Finally. And then inside of the finally statement, we need another try catch statement. So try catch. And we're catching an input output exception. E.print stack trace. And alright, so let's fill in the try statements. So inside of the main try statement, we need to set the input stream to something. So the input stream equals to new object input stream, and then the input stream will be file input. So from type in main activity dot activity dot open file input, and then this is where we type the name of the file that we had before. So we're just gonna type in data because that's what we named the file. Okay, so we've initialized the input stream. Next thing we need is an object equal it to null for now, and we're going to use this object. First of all, do obj dot or obj. Okay, actually we don't need to set this to null. Set it to input stream dot read object. Alright, there we go. And then we need to make so this is a check to make sure it's the right object. The if statement, if obj is an instance of, and our instance of app serializable data, because that's the class that we're trying to retrieve. So if it's an instance of that, we can return the casted app serializable data from the object. Okay, and then if it's not, well, we can just return null. Okay, and then in the finally statement, the try, we need to say if the input stream is not equal to null, then we need to close the input stream. And now we also need to add a return statement at the very end, so that if everything fails, it's going to return null. And now we have finished these two methods, and we can start to use them. Alright, so now let's look in the drawer long click listener. This is where we're actually adding the app to the home screen. You can see right here, we are getting the package name and name and setting that as the tag. But I'm wondering if we should do that, or if we should set a whole package as the tag. I'm not going to decide that yet, but whenever we are initializing the application, getting the data from the serialized array, I might want to think about switching that up. But as for now, let's add this app to the serialized file, if you know what I mean. So the first thing we need to do is try to grab the app serializable data. We need to check if it exists, and to do that, well, first of all, let's do the saving right here. So we set the tag before it adds to the view. We need to first of all go into our serializable tools, and we need to call load serialized data, and we can do this app serializable data equals to that. So if the file already exists, then it's going to bring that up, that object, into this. But if it doesn't exist, it's going to be null. So it looks like we have a duplicate of data, so we're using it here too. So I'll call this serialized, or well, let's just call it object data. I don't really mind, whatever you want to call it. So this may be null or it may not, so we need to detect if it's null or not. So if object data equals null, so if it is null, we need to create a new instance of app serializable data. So then we do object data equals new app serializable data. So that's if it's null. And then the next thing we need to do is check if the array list inside of app serializable data is null. So if object data dot apps equals null, then we set object data dot apps equal to a new array list pack with the, okay, so here, that's how you do it. So object dot apps, we will create it into a new array. Let me look into the app serializable data. So yeah, we just have this one array so far, and we are creating the object. Now we need to add an app to that array. So we can do object data dot apps dot add, and then the pack that we are going to add will be the pack for listener with the position added in. So it's adding that pack. Okay, and then alright, so we're adding, sorry, it gets a little bit complicated. I'm a little distracted right now. So we've added that to the array, and now we need to save it. And we're also going to want to set some parameters in the package. So, but let's first save it, and then we'll do that. I'll show you what I mean. So we need to do serialization tools dot serialized data, and we pass in the object data. Alright, and then I'm thinking we need to set the XY data, so just like in the LP.left margin and top margin. So let's set those. parameters. So we can, before we add the app, let's actually create a new pack object, and we can call this pack to add equals, and then just equal it to this one in the array, and then we do pack to add dot x. So this will be the x location on the home screen, and we need to set it to lp.left margin, and then pack to add dot y we set to lp.top margin. Okay, and then I'm thinking if we go into the pack class, I think we should add one more thing, a boolean for the orientation of the screen. I want to have the orientation of the screen classified in this object, so that in the future, or maybe soon, we can scale the location of the icon based off the orientation of the screen, but we only can really do that if we know where it was added. So let's have a boolean for a landscape. So if the device is in landscape mode, then it will be set to true. So in order to detect if it's in landscape mode, we can do if main activity dot get resources dot get configuration dot orientation equals to configuration dot orientation landscape. Okay. So now if it's in landscape, we need to set that boolean to true. So pack to add dot orient landscape equals true. And just to make sure, let's do an else and set it to false if it's not. And then next we need to make sure that we are adding the pack to add class into the array. And then next let's also call the caching command on the package. Before we add it to the array, do pack to add dot cache icon. I'm actually going to end it here, and we will continue in part 14-4. I know this has been a long part, but there's really a lot to it. There's a lot to making a launcher. So, thanks for listening.